Hello friends and welcome to another video lesson from DBO's Talks. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe and click the bell so that you can be notified of new uploads. This video is part of the playlist called Python tutorial, and here we'll be learning how to take user input and how to use that user input. Okay, so in previous videos, we began by using hard-coded values, and then we progressed into the use of variables instead of hard-coded values. So variables are something that store values. If you remember, this time around, we'll be taking the value or values from a user input. And then to do that, we'll be learning about another built-in function in Python called input. Okay, so let's look at an example. So again, the input function is, it will accept user input. It's something that you can use. It's data coming in from the user instead of a hard-coded value, instead of a value being assigned to a variable. So we're looking at two lines of code on your screen. The first line, we have the usual variable declaration. So we have a variable called name. It's being declared, but instead of giving a hard-coded value such as John or Eric or Juan or Pedro, you are using a new, for us, it's new, Python built-in function called input. So what happens is, in that same line, in this first line of code, the variable called name is taking its value from this, from the output of this. So what happens is, this input function, once you run this script, it will prompt the user. So remember, it's a function, so it has parentheses, as a pair of them. And inside the parentheses is where you put your parameter. Some functions don't need a parameter. Some functions need a parameter. In this case, input needs a parameter. This parameter inside is a string, which is the bunch of characters or text that is being displayed to the user. Okay, and then with that prompt, the user will be, of course, be prompted by this: enter your name. So the user will enter his or her name, and whatever the user enters will be passed as a value to the variable called name. In the second line, the print function will do its usual thing, but instead of accepting a hard-coded value here, it will print the value of the variable called name. Okay, so let's execute this thing. So because of the input function, Python is prompting the user to enter his name. So he will oblige, he will enter his name and then press enter. So what happens is, in the first line, the input command or function prompted the user with these words: enter your name. That's why you see them here, enter your name. And then the user typed Paul and then entered. After entering that, the second line executed to print the value of name. In this case, in this time around, the value of name now took from the user input, which is Paul. Okay, so in those two lines of code, certain things happen. We see something familiar, we see something that is new to us. So again, the novelty here is that the variable's value is not something we assign to it in advance, but something that has been entered by the user with the help of the input function. Okay, now let's edit the second line a little bit. The second line of code, I will edit a little bit with this. Okay, so the first line remains unchanged. The second line, I changed it to this: print good day plus name. Okay, so you can see something new here. I will execute this. I will be prompted because of the input function. It asks me these words: enter your name. I will again enter my name. What happens now is something different. It's a bit customized. So I took, again, the input function prompts the user with these words. The user will, because of the prompt, will do and follow it. And so he will enter his or her name. In this case, it's Paul. And then once the user enters, Python will print this: good day plus name. Something new is happening here. So instead of just printing the name or printing just the words good day, it is doing both. You will see a plus sign here, and it is something new. It's called concatenation. It is an operation which happens in strings, as in different programming languages, including Python. So here, concatenation, just to talk to you a little bit about that, is okay, I will put it somewhere here, okay, at the top. So concatenation is an operation of which involves joining two or more strings. String, if you remember from the very first video in this series, is a bunch of characters. Can be a single character, can be multiple characters, which are enclosed in a pair of double quotes or single quotes. It's a string. That's the data type. So in this case, again, concatenation is the joining of strings. From here, from this double quote up to the end of double quote is one string. Okay. Since concatenation is the joining of strings, it's joining this string with this other string. Although it's just name, it's not enclosed in double quotes, it's still a string because it's a string variable. Why? Because from this first line of code, name, at the time of declaration doesn't have a data type, but once you assign this, the output of this command is a string, which is, in this case, the name Paul. It's a string being assigned to the variable name. So therefore, this, from the beginning and up to the end of the double quote, is a string, while the name here is also a string. It's a string variable. So concatenation involves the joining of strings. Think of the plus character or operator as a glue in concatenation used to join strings. So technically, when before even printing, before this thing runs, it will join this string with using this kind of glue, the plus operator, with this other string. So that's why you have good day, the comma, and the space joined with the string value of name, which is Paul. So we have this good day, Paul. So in these two lines of code, so here's the explanation. The first is enclosed in quote is the first string, and including the comma. And the second string is the value of the variable name. Okay, that's the explanation. Again, concatenation is an operation which involves the joining of two or more strings using the concatenation operator, which is a plus. This is different from the usual plus used in mathematical operations, which is obviously addition. Okay, we will talk about it in some later videos on mathematics, mathematical operations. But here we're talking about strings. Okay, so we have run it. We have seen how it works. I mean the concatenation. So a couple of things happened here. Like I said, the usual variable declaration, but instead of giving a hard-coded value of a string, we are taking that string from the output of this command. It's a new, for your case, for some of you, it is a new built-in function of Python, new for you. What it does is it prompts the user, and it gives you the option to enter some text that will prompt the user, help the user to enter exactly what you want. In this case, the name. And then that thing that's being entered by the user is being taken and being passed to the variable with a data type of string. And then the second line of code is the built-in print function, which you're already very familiar with. But in this case, inside the parentheses, instead of just giving one string, we are doing a concatenation of strings. So the hard-coded string good day joined or concatenated with the string value of the variable name. Okay, to give you perspective, we have written a short Python script that is interactive, made possible by the input function over here. And then we have taken the user input and used it to show the user a customized message. Customized because the name here is dynamic. It is not something hard-coded. It depends on whatever name was entered by the user. Okay, so that makes it customized. That is giving you look-see into the possibilities of interactivity, of being interactive in Python. So, like I said, we learned a string operation here called concatenation. with the help of this operator over here. Now let's practice some more on concatenation, since it's a new concept for many of us. Okay, for you. I clear this. Okay, so here we have a variable declaration. There's a string variable here. How do I know it's a string? Because the value I'm passing to it is a string enclosed in double quotes. So the first variable has a value, this is, including the space over here. The second variable is called phrase underscore two, and it has also this value, something new to me. In the third line of code, I have the familiar print function. And since it's a function, it comes with a pair of parentheses. And inside of that is the is the parameter. In this case, I'm doing a concatenation again so that you can get more comfortable and familiar with the concatenation operation. So again, concatenation is the joining. It's a very simplified definition. Is the joining of two or more strings. So phrase one is a string because in this declaration, you can see I'm passing a string to it. So it becomes a string variable. Phrase two is a string value because this variable is receiving also a string value being assigned to it. So this string joined to this string using the concatenation operator, which is a plus. So when I run this, see what happens. So what happens is this is being joined to the other string, something new to me, and this is the result. This is something new to me. Now, for somebody who is just learning this in the very early stages, you could get into the usual mistake of doing this. Okay, so you will just think of the first phrase as this is like this. And then when you run it, you will see something wrong. This is something so the two words here are together and should have been separate words. So what you will do is either you add the space here or you add the space on the second variable. That's the same thing, okay? So it depends on your preference, but be aware that this is one of the pitfalls of somebody just beginning to learn or getting familiar with the concatenation process or operation. Okay, next, you can apply what you've learned in my previous video, which is about if conditions in Python, okay? I will cut this out and I will give you this. Remember in my, I think, third video, we talked about the if, elif, and else conditions, clauses, or statements in Python, which is also something that's also existing across all the other programming languages. So I have two variable declarations here. First one called name, and we're using the input function, which is something you've already learned in the previous example. And there's a second variable called age, which is also taking its value from the input function. So like I said, the input function will have this bunch of text, which is the one that is being displayed to the user at the time of when you run this script, okay? So it will prompt the user, enter your name, the user will enter something, it will prompt enter your age, the user will enter something. And then here, this print with nothing in it, with no parameter inside, is just to print a blank line so that I can have it's better looking, it's not so, they're not sticking together. You can see later on, once I run this, you'll see the effect. And then I have a clause, a block of if conditions here. If the integer value of age is what? It's this variable being entered by the user. It is initially being entered as a string. So I am converting it into an integer, a whole number, which could be signed. So if the integer value of this age entered by the user is greater than or equal to 18, then I will print this, hi, then the concatenation character, the name of the person who entered it, and then welcome to the club. Otherwise, else, it will print sorry, and then it will join with the name entered by the user, and then you're too young. Okay, let's run this and see what happens. Okay, enter your name. So I will enter my name, and then it will ask my age. Doesn't matter if I'm you don't have to worry right now about being honest or not. We're just showing you how the program works. Okay, if I enter 18, I'm trying to mimic this scenario over here, which is the age is greater than or equal to 18. So I will enter 18 and enter. What does it say? Hi, Paul. Welcome to the club. So this is dynamic message coming in here, and we are putting into practice the things that we've learned in the previous as well as the current video, which is the use of the if clauses the use of variable declaration, the use of the data types, the concept of that, as well as the new function you're learning here, which is input. Okay, so what happens is this is a dynamic message. Some of the info coming from the data that was input, you don't say inputted, that was entered by the user. So hi Paul. Paul is from the name variable entered by the user. Welcome to the club. How am I able to say this? Because I'm making a decision with my if clause. Why? Because the Paul said he is 18. So since he entered 18, this line of code here converted the string variable 18 into an integer, and then it tested that value if it is greater than or equal to 18. Since it's 18, which is equal to 18, then this will become true. This will be evaluated as true, and therefore this will be executed. So that's why it printed hi, concatenated with the value of the name variable, which is Paul, and then the comma here, and then welcome to the club. Okay, let's try the other scenario. I'll run, I'll give my name, and then I will enter something that will make it fall into this category. So something, the opposite of this is less than 18. I will try 17. So what happens is it printed some other message. Sorry, Paul, you're too young. So it went into the else condition because the age value I entered is 17, which doesn't evaluate to true here. So that's why it went here and it executed this line of code. So it says, it did this, it printed sorry, and concatenated the value of the name variable, which was entered by the user, Paul. So it's here. And then it concatenated further with this string, you're too young. See, that's what it did. So you can see a couple of things, a couple of concepts being put into good use in this video, in this example. So again, you see here the use of variable declaration, the concept of data types, the built-in print function, the use of the if conditions, as well as the use of the function called input. Okay, so thank you for watching and thank you for listening. If you haven't subscribed, I do suggest click subscribe, spread the word, and I hope to see you in the next video.